let's talk to Alan in California. He wants to talk about exploring his sexuality and is curious if he counts as bisexual. Alan, you are on with Rudy, Christy, and Marie. How are you?
I'm good. How are all of you?
Doing
Pretty
great, thank
good.
you.
Good. So make no mistake, it's not like I feel that I need to have a label or that I'm like ashamed of anything. I'm just kind of curious to hear what other people think because, like I mentioned in the last time I called, I discovered that I was attracted to a man when I saw him on YouTube. However, when I look at other men, it doesn't do it for me. I'm just not into it. But for him, I am. However, some people refer to him as, I don't know if this is a derogatory term, but they refer to him as like a femboy. He's very effeminate and very just cutesy in the way he behaves, which I adore. And right now he's actually a she. She's transitioning. But the thing is, I'm thinking to myself, well, there's only this one guy I'm attracted to. And there's a male actor I saw in a movie that I had to watch for class who played the role of like a effeminate minstrel. And I found him attractive. So I'm like, are these two just the exception to the rule and I'm still technically hetero? Or does that count as bisexual or not? I'm just not sure. I'm kind of curious for your perspective.
Yeah, well, we can parse out the language a little bit, but I really want to start by just checking in if you are describing this this YouTuber incorrectly or if I misunderstood, because I was under the impression that this was somebody who was a cis male and you were having kind of this conversation with yourself about whether or not you were attracted to a cis male. But if they are, or if she is a trans woman, then that's a very different conversation. So what was that point?
She is transitioning now, but when I first looked at her, it was during the time when she was still very much
much presenting cis. Sure.
Yeah. Thank you for the correction. Yeah, I was still attracted to him. And pardon me for that word. It was in reference to a Korean film about entertainers back then in like the old period of Korea. So my apologies for that one.
Yeah, well, no, I think femboy is a non-derogatory term. I don't want to be the arbiter of that, but I do think that's an appropriate term when it's appropriate.
To describe myself, I'll just say that I love using that term.
Sure. Well, what do y'all think as we're parsing this out and playing the linguistics game?
Marie, did you have thoughts you wanted to start with, or?
Well, I mean, anything that I have is just it's all from my point of view, which is limited, and I think I'm undereducated on the topic. But my immediate thought, and I hope my hosts will supplement with whatever thoughts they have, is that it's up to you to decide if that label makes sense to you. It's something that for example, something I've been wondering for maybe a year or two now is, am I non-binary? Do I want to use they, them pronouns? And I asked Fila Bianca about it one time, and they told me that they hadn't really felt any dissonance around, the she, her label until they tried using they, them for a while, just to see how it felt. And they just said that it felt so much better. And so what that taught me is just to explore and just notice how you feel if you start saying, maybe I'm bisexual, and you tell someone you're bisexual, and then they describe you bisexual. How does it feel? Does that make sense to you? Does that align to you? Or you could dive deeper and get really into those descriptive labels of, and I can't even think of examples, but like, heterosexual, sometimes femboy, liking such and such, you know what I mean? Like you can really just start to make your label just a beautiful paragraph if you want. Who the fuck cares? So like, I'm just all about like, it's play. You don't need to fit yourself inside a box. I think labels are helpful to help you find understanding about yourself, but to be playful with it and give yourself permission.
Yeah. I would definitely piggyback off of that and say that I changed one of my own labels very recently because after living with it for a while, and thinking about others, I was like, I liked that one. It worked for me at the time, but I kind of feel like this might be a better description now that I have called myself that and felt my way through it. And now I'm like, I don't feel like gender fluid is quite the right term for me. Gender queer is probably a better descriptor. I feel more comfortable in that. And I have changed the label that I used from bisexual to pansexual at different times in my life. So like this isn't a decision that you have to make, and it's like, all right, that's it. I guess
Locked
that
in.
I can never not say that I'm bi now that I started calling myself bi, or whatever term you end up on. There's ones that get real specific, like Marie said, and it's for some people it's easier to just describe their sexuality than put a word on it, because for some people it's very specific. Maybe you're just attracted to feminine people, whether or not they no matter what parts they may or may not have, it's a certain cultural perception of femininity that you're attracted to. Who knows?
Right.
And that's your thing to play with and figure out.
Yeah, makes sense. And yeah, I understand that femininity is kind of a subjective word, because I'm actually a communications major and we're kind of going over that in my classes right now.
Sure.
Well, that gave me a lot to think of. Was there anything else you want to say or ask?
Yeah, I think I would just point out again that you do get to make this choice, that these labels are not medical diagnoses. They are not going to be written on your indelible chart, and you get to play around with them. Nobody in the bisexual community, at least nobody that speaks for me, is going to be telling you you're not allowed to use these terms. As you're shopping around and looking for things that feel comfortable, you might find that heteroflexible is a word that may describe you. You might find something like the word cockhound is more appropriate for you, just depending on how you see this side of yourself. Or it may be very much the case that you are a largely straight man who was attracted to a woman without realizing it at the time. So those are all very difficult and nebulous ideas to ever be able to kind of like lock down. And so that's why I say these labels are great if they bring a sense of community, if they encourage a strong sense of identity or allow you to feel seen. But they're really not vital, and they're going to be imperfect no matter how you slice them. No matter what you do, there is no adjective that's ever going to encapsulate you. And so it's okay to have a little bit of ish and a little bit of squish in all of your adjectives. Beyond that, I'll tell you, we did an episode this past summer about poly Viking power bottoms and other, strings of adjectives. So I'll make sure to drop a link to that episode in the show notes for this one, because that may help answer some of these questions in a little more detail.
That does sound great. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
All right. Well, that's all I have for you guys. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, well, I hope that answered your question. And it was great to get to talk to you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys taking my call. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you have a great night.
All right. Bye.
You too.